So welcome back after break. We were talking about one of the attributes of Islam, and that is Islam as a religion of nature, Deen ul-Fitra. When we look closely, at different teachings of Islam, especially including Hajj, Qurbani and other teachings, so we find that Islam and its teachings are compatible with human nature. And I refer to one of the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that every child who is born, he is born on the nature of Islam. Then the surrounding elements, like the people who are surrounding him, who are around him, they have influence over his personality. Now I would like to talk about this specific aspect, that how our surrounding and how the people and environment have an everlasting effect on our personality. For example, if we are around good people, then we'll be, having a tendency to perform good deeds. And if we are surrounded by bad people, then their character, their values, their actions, their behavior, all these things will have an impact over us. And this is the reason why Islam, teaches us to be in the company of good people. We read in the Holy Quran, "Kunu ma'as sadiqeen." Be, with the people who are good, who are truthful, who are, sadiq, who perform good deeds and who talk about the things that are good. So Islam emphasizes on the people who are around you must be good, and their character must be good, their values must be good, and we should try to avoid people whose actions or behavior are not according to Sharia, according to the Islamic law and the teachings of Islam. So when we go on to perform Hajj, or when we offer Qurbani, we must remember the spirit and the soul and the purpose of both these ibadah. Whatever is the condition, for example, if there is a person who is performing Hajj and his condition is that of Hajjul Ifrad, or there is a person who is performing Hajj and the condition is that of Hajjul Qiran or Hajjul Tamattu, whatever might be the condition, he must focus on the spirit of Hajj. Whatever the manasik or the rites and rituals he is performing during Hajj, he must remember the spirit of all those manasik. For example, there is a Haji or a pilgrim who is wearing ihram, so he must remember the spirit of ihram. Why he is wearing that sort of dress? Because he is following the commandment of Allah Almighty, he is following the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that specific dress shows humbleness. That specific dress of ihram shows your surrender to the will of Allah Almighty. Now just think about the people who are having different background, different social status. There might be people who are wealthy, there might be people who are poor, or who are less privileged, but they just think about different background. Just think about different social status of people. There might be people who are having the designations and they are having privilege designations, and there might be people who are not having such designation. But when you see them during the ibadah of Hajj, they are having just one type of dress, and that dress is ihram. They are showing singularity, they are showing unity, and they are showing their surrender to the will of Allah Almighty. And if we go on to observe all these practices and think carefully about the rites and rituals of Hajj, we come to know that all these things are the sign of showing our love for Allah Almighty, our love for the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alaihi wasallam, that we do not question the form of ihram, the way we wear that specific dress that is called ihram. We are just following the commandment of Allah Almighty without conditions. We are just showing our surrender without conditions. And that when we talk about love for Allah Almighty, when we talk about love for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so this love must be unconditional. There must not be any conditions like the way we love human beings, people. We are having some conditions. For example, you might see people, they have some commitments, they have some principles and rules for having good relations with people. They sometimes say that I'll be good with the person who is good with me. Although this needs to be reconsidered in the light of the teachings of Islam. This is not what Islam says. We should be good to people, right? Whether they are good with us or not. We should be good to our close relatives, whether they are good to us or not, because this is also the commandment of Allah Almighty. So the point is, whenever we follow any order, any instruction, commandment of Sharia, we must follow that and we must obey to the commandment of Allah Almighty, to the commandments of Sharia, without having conditions. So whether we understand the wisdom behind any commandment of Sharia or not, okay, fine. If we if we have understood the wisdom behind that specific commandment, so that's good. But suppose if we fail to understand the wisdom or the rationale behind that specific commandment, so it does not mean that we'll not do or will not obey that commandment of Sharia. We'll obey the commandment. Why? Because we have surrendered to the will of Allah Almighty unconditionally, right? That is the sign that we love Allah Almighty. We love the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alaihi wasallam, and love for Allah, love for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam must be above all kinds of love. For example, love for your kids, your children, your close relatives, your parents. Allah's love and the love for Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam must be above all these kinds of love. And this is, reflection of your belief. So if we look carefully and if we think about just, our attitude and behavior, we find that our behavior and attitude are reflection of our thoughts. These thoughts that we carry in our minds are reflected in the actions, what we perform, and in our attitudes and behavior. So our actions, our behavior, our days and nights, our dealings, all these things must show that we are believers. We believe in Allah Almighty. We believe in the last Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alaihi wasallam. And if we follow this principle, then the world will see, change in our attitude, and they will be inspired, because your action speaks louder than words. So that is why Islam emphasizes, your dealings must be good, your actions must be good, your behavior must be good. And one most important thing is that while performing any good deed, while doing any good deed or action, your objective must not be to gain reputation or seek any reward from people. No, not at all. You must focus on akhirah and gaining reward from Allah Almighty. Whether you are feeding someone, whether you are helping someone, whether you are performing any obligatory ibadah, whether you are offering qurbani, whether you are performing Hajj, everything, every ibadah, you must be focusing on akhirah and gaining reward from Allah Almighty. And that shows the purity of your intention. And that is why we read in a hadith, one of the hadiths of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it says, innamal a'malu bin niyyat, that actions are based on intentions. This hadith means that even good actions are acceptable in the sight of Allah Almighty when they are performed with the sole purpose of pleasing Allah Almighty, not for any show off, not for gaining reward from people, not for gaining any sort of reputation or social or economic benefits. So that purity of intention is required in Islam. And that purity of intention, how does it work? When you have purity of intention while performing Hajj, while offering qurbani, then you will see the results. then you will see the results in the society, then the barakah of that specific act of worship, then the barakah or blessing of that specific act of worship or ibadah will reveal, and then you will see its benefits in the society. So Allah Almighty's love and love for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, both these loves are reflected in the acts of worship that we perform. So we'll continue this talk. We are having a break. We'll be right back after a short break.